Hi and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to answer some of your comments about the predictions that I've made on the channel. Well, first of all, thank you for posting your comments so often on my videos. It makes the whole act of making these videos so interesting for me. I do read every single one, and I enjoy some of your comments, and most of them are nice, you know. And well, thanks for doing it, and keep posting, please, because I'll try to answer some more as time goes on, not just on the prediction stuff, but generally. I do pick up your ideas. But this one today is about trying to answer one or two of your specific questions, and as you follow this channel, you'll see there's lots and lots of questions on there. I won't be able to cover them all, but I've picked a few out, really just from one of the videos. I'll have to do some more of these as we go on. So the predictions I'm making are not really specific. They're not time specific today. It's more general. You'll see when I answer these questions. I'm going to talk about some of the things that I feel will happen to the world in general, the trends, you know, because I feel what I get right. I mean, I get some things wrong, remember, and I get a lot right as well, but I think I generally get the trend of things right, the way I get my predictions. So I'm going to try to look a little bit at some of those trends and make more specific predictions later on when I do some of my more formal videos. So thank you for commenting, and thank you also for those other psychics out there that are now using my predictions as their own, because they say imitation is the highest form of flattery, don't they? Okay, anyway, let's get on with the first question. Okay, this question was sent to me by email. And it was from Nico Cardo Advocado, who also runs a really interesting site if you go and have a look. You go and see his site, and I will predict that you will go on a diet if you go and look at his site. You will go on a Christmas diet. Now that's a prediction for you. But it's a funny site, it was good fun. But he was a nice character, and I thought I'd like to answer this question because I kind of like the energy there. So it says, if you could tap into it, I'd love to hear how you foresee the planet in the next 50 to 100 years as climate change floods the headlines. Many say they are exaggerations, while others say coastal cities are inevitably doomed. This is something that fascinates me, as I happen to live in Florida at the moment. Well, this is obviously one of the most important questions in terms of the future that we could possibly ask. So it's not something I could answer really short, so bear with me with this. Now, when I think about climate change, I think about when I was at school, you know, a long time ago in the discussing this particular point in the early 1970s. In fact, in the late 1960s, I seem to remember we were talking about this, when they talked about the limits of growth. There was this whole big thing on the television about the limits of growth, that we couldn't keep growing and growing and growing, and that eventually the environment would cave in, that we couldn't manage, you know, and that the seas were going to flood, that we were going to choke in the atmosphere. And each of us in the class had to take as topic, and mine was climate change for the actual weather. Someone else did it for the seas, and someone else did it for the land, and so forth. And I was convinced at that point as a child that we were all going to choke to death before we drowned. Well, here we are, and we're still going, because by now we were kind of anticipating that we'd have been in major climatic chaos. We are, but not perhaps to the extent that we saw it at that stage. But climate change is creeping up on us, and I have felt ever since those early days at school that we really must look at the environment. And this was all endemic also when the hippie movement was around, and was saying we must decentralize, we must deindustrialize, we must stop being so materialistic. And for a while, as you know, there was a real major renaissance of art and thought and attitudes, all of which has kind of faded away a lot nowadays. But there's still undercurrents of that same feeling of a need to change the world. And I feel that climate change and the flooding is going to become worse and worse and worse. These scientists are not spinning as a yarn, but I think they got some things wrong as well. And I think there's also room for optimism as well. But first of all, you know, from the scientific point of view, it's pretty obvious if you look at the statistics that we're getting worse and worse climatic conditions all the time. So the atmosphere must be warming up because we have like today in the UK we have massive flooding. One of the predictions I made for the year ahead, you remember, for 2019, and I also predicted for this year that these huge fires in Australia, which we're also seeing. And actually you're probably going to get that type of thing year upon year. It's just knowing where it's going to happen, not if it's going to happen. We're going to get more and more energy put into the environment, and it's like when you boil up water. The more energy you put in, the more energetic the thing we're heating becomes. And if we overheat the planet, not only do we get climate change, but we also get changes to the actual Earth itself, to the structure. This is why we may get, I feel, earthquakes and volcanoes and all the rest of it happening, because these things are happening at this time, partly because we're just so materialistic and we're just throwing so much junk into the environment. I mean, I know I've also talked about this trade war that's going to be here in the future with China, but becoming major, like cutting it off. But actually, friends that have come back from China talk about how absolutely terrible the pollution is there. And I look at places like India, and that too is polluted. You know, this all the East is producing our cheap goods, but it's all being chucked into the rivers, and it's all being chucked onto these mountainsides covered in plastic bottles I've seen in India. And that's not the worst, because India's trying to change things. But so the pollution of the world and the climate change, the two things are very much interlinked. And it's this consumer throwaway society, as I'm sure you'll all agree. It doesn't take a psychic to see that things are going wrong. And my feeling also is that we have another problem as well, because I think part of the problem what we're seeing is we're saying it's all about petrol pollution, and it is partly about that. But I also get the feeling that will be further problems with the sun itself. The sun goes through various cycles, and we see when it's through its sunspots how it gets hotter and colder over the millennia. And my feeling is we're going to get a second problem because we got the sun working not in our favour as well. But that's no reason to say that climate change, man-made climate change, is not the cause, because that is part of it. We have two problems we have to face in the future. But also my feeling is, yes, if we live in low-lying areas, gradually we're going to start seeing more and more places permanently flooded. And most of our civilization is on the coastal areas, isn't it? All the big cities are mainly on the coastal areas, and most civilizations have been like that. In fact, I'm very interested in the whole idea that there was a earlier civilization going back pre-Ice Age times, in which the world had new other civilizations which were coastal based. And when the great floodings came after the time of the melting of the glaciers, which some say, like Graham Hancock says, that these things happen very suddenly. Whole areas like the Persian Gulf flooded to give us the flood stories. Whole areas around the world, south of India, for example, and what was the great continent south of India, sunk beneath the waves. And these gave rise to the stories of the flood, and gave stories such as Atlantis and so forth. So, and I feel that's happened. That's happened in the past, and it could happen again. But perhaps not so dramatically as what happened with the great floods when the glaciers melted. So we do have to be careful, massively careful. But I feel that I have to look at it another way too, because I feel that everything is conscious. The earth is conscious. They talk about Gaia, this idea, but not just the earth. Everything is conscious. Even the sun is conscious. It may be a thinking, self-aware being. Now that sounds crackpot, doesn't it? But I feel that when we get something, when something forms, it takes on a certain form of material consciousness, and when when life becomes dependent on it, it also becomes part of a collective consciousness. A bit like the way an ant's nest has a consciousness of its own, or the mushrooms in a field have a mycelium, so they're all connected and have a consciousness of their own. And of course, as human beings, we also are projecting energy and thoughts all the time to one another, so we create a collective consciousness, both as a small group in a family, both between friends, between nations, between the world at large. So we have, behind all this, we have to think about that life was, the universe was designed, well, not designed, the universe existed so that life could happen. I feel that life was inevitable with the Big Bang. It all happened, and from the moment it all started, life was an inevitability. It's inevitable. And I feel the continuation of life is also inevitable, because this universe is here to sustain and create consciousness. The universe is trying to wake up. The universe is trying to become conscious. If you want to put it in religious terms, you could say it's like God becoming conscious of his creation and God becoming conscious of himself, you know. But you don't need to think of it in religious terms. You can think of it purely in material terms. The world is becoming a consciousness. So for that reason, I think ultimately we are safe, because somehow we're going to find a fix for things. That's my feeling. And I think the fix will come through our understanding of energy, because we are now entering, according to the Indian thoughts, we're entering the time of, we're coming out of the time of Kali Yuga. We're still experiencing a lot of the negativity of Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is the age of darkness, the age of ignorance, you know, but it's also the age of materialism, and out of it, the positive thing that came out of it was science. But now we're going into the age of Dwapara Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga is the age of energy. Now, energy comes in multiple forms. So energy comes both as a form of consciousness and life force, so that will be the ultimate goal of this new era, but also new forms of energy will be found. So I feel that in the longer term, we're going to find new ways of producing energy, clean, total, cheap, almost free energy. And once we've done that, you imagine what we could do with it. You know, we could have pollutionless energy that could maybe desalinate the seas to create fresh water to feed us through by cultivating the Sahara, or refreezing the North Pole. You know, I mean, we could do whatever we wanted to do if we had unlimited energy. The technology that we'd be capable of would be infinite, because energy is the key. So that's my feeling. That's my feeling, the way things will go. In our lifetimes, will we all be up to our necks in floods? I don't think it will be in my lifetime. I don't think it will be in the next generation's lifetime. I think it's going to be a gradual thing. And my thought is that we've got to think positive about this. And we've got to think in terms of not seeing the world as under another deluge, but seeing the world this time as an opportunity to find new ways, to be optimistic. Because thoughts are things. The way we think about the world becomes, just as our own lives become, according to how we think. So let's think positively about it. We have serious problems to deal with, but I think we can crack them. So thanks for your questions, keep them coming, and if you're interested in the future, don't forget, here's your ad. Get my book, Messages from the Universe. It talks all about destiny and fate and those sort of things, so you may enjoy that if you enjoy following my predictions. Right, my next question was sent in by somebody called Yan, and she says, was curious to hear more on India's spiritual influences moving forward. Quite a simple question, but I have covered it quite a lot in some of my more recent predictions, but I'll just expand on it a little bit more, because I mentioned in the earlier question about we're coming into this new age, Dwapara Yuga. Now, lots of different people have different ideas about whether this is a golden age, whether this is another age of, like I said, about the electric age. If you want to learn more about it, you can read people like Yogananda, who has some very interesting things to say about that. But all of the Indian teachings teach us about this idea of moving to a new age, and so do the ancient Greeks. They talked in a different way. They talked about the age of iron, the age of copper, the age of gold and so forth, silver, gold and so forth. So there's this concept that I think goes right the way back to earlier times, to earlier civilizations, as I've said, and these are things I'm going to cover later on in some of my talks, because this is something that's important to me in my thinking. So I feel some of the things that are going to happen with the India things, I feel that the spiritual revolution in India comes from southern India. This is the feeling I get. It's not northern India, it's from southern India. And I feel that there's a reconnection and a rediscovery. This is something I just want to add a bit more, because this idea of the ancient past. Because south of India, there used to be a continent. This is legendary, but people have called it Lemuria. The actual name would be Kumari Kandam, which was like a almost continent-size landmass that was south of India, that sunk thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. And although there's also talk about how some of the ancient India around the Indus Valley sunk beneath the sea, this predates that further. And I get a sense that we're going to have some real proper archaeological proof that existed. And I also get the sense that we're going to kind of find there's going to be some rediscoveries under the seas there, south of India, quite way out, in alignment with the holy mountains of India. And that would be like Mount Kailash, and a line running down from Kailash through other sacred sites of Shiva. This is my feeling, that they're lined up somehow. It's like a ley line type thing, and it will direct us to another undersea mountain, which I feel was the original Mount Kailash. So that's an odd thing, but my feeling is that it's like we rediscover something because of that spiritually. We open an energy when we do that. And this, I feel, will be part of this reawakening of the knowledge. And a lot of you will think this a bit crackpot too, but I believe very much in the power of mantra. Not as a magical chant, as a divine chant. And that when one says certain mantras, you can change the energy in your life, you can change the energy in your body, you can change your consciousness through a mantra. And these are not psychological things. I understand these to be real things. They're things that I've talked about in my books again, because in particularly my India books, because this is something I discovered with my investigations, let's say, into the Indians, oracles and other things to come I've found from that. But these mantras have a certain power. And I feel that one of the things that's going to come out of India is a rediscovering of the ancient mantras that had been forgotten, and an understanding how to pronounce those. So that's just another little thing that I'm throwing in there about the India thing, because I feel there's a lot more I will tell you about the idea of the coming age of new consciousness, because we don't have to worry about predictions about the future. Keep your focus on your spiritual self, and you are protected in this world. And you have to really be focused on your spiritual work to be protected, you know, because if we do our sadhana, as it were, as we do our spiritual work, the problems of the world become less. Our problems in ourselves become less. We free ourselves from the karmic bonds of illness. We free ourselves from the karmic bonds of unfortunate situations and misfortune that might be on the way to us. We free ourselves. And we can do that by these techniques that I feel will be starting to be given to the world more openly as we rediscover the ancient knowledge from India. So if you enjoy my channel, don't forget you can also get readings with my team of psychics that are working on the site, and you might want to find out about your way ahead through 2020. So we got a lot of psychics there who will take your calls, and if you support them, you're supporting this channel as well. Now my next question is a bit more down to earth, because we've got someone called Helen. I won't give you surname, Helen, but she says, can you please look into the gossip going around that Putin wants the EU to break up, that he is involved in our Brexit elections? Now, when I make a prediction, I must say that I tend to sit down, meditate, open my mind, and I do various concentration techniques, and the things come to me. You know, I don't have to ask a question, they come to me. And it's the same when you do mediumship. The best mediumship comes when I tell the person in front of me the things, as it were. They don't ask me questions, I just tell them, you know. So they don't say, should I move house? I say, I see you moving house, you know, that type of thing. And it's the same with predictions. It's always difficult if I ask myself a question or someone asks me a question, because I always have to worry, am I seeding my own thoughts here? You know, are my own preconceptions getting in the way? So these type of questions where people ask me something, I've got to go with my first gut feeling. However, with this one, I did have some strong feelings about this when I was doing my meditations for over a number of times. But if you look at my Brexit predictions and things further back, I said that the Russians will interfere with the Brexit transition, and I still hold by that. We haven't had the full Brexit break yet, but we are having that soon. Obviously it's probably going to be in the new year now, so timing, I was a bit out with some of my timing. I felt it would have been sooner by now, but I did see an election beforehand, so timing is often a difficult thing. However, I did have this strong sense that there was going to be a huge Russian-based, although we might not be able to prove it, cyber attack in particular is going to try to disrupt Brexit itself, and also the elections here. So I would say to you this: I would say yes to this. I do feel Putin is behind a lot of disruption, and he acts totally innocent all the time. You know, how terrible that you should say these things, and the Russian people are right behind him. But I feel Putin is doing clandestine things in our elections right as I speak too, because I feel that there's gonna be as much influence as possible to bring down websites, to use any subterfuge to try to trick Facebook and all the rest of it. And although they're trying to stop all this, I feel that it will still go on. And also, let's also talk about Trump, shall we? Because I did say that Trump, they would try to impeach Trump. I said this a long time ago, but they wouldn't get away with it. It wouldn't happen. They wouldn't impeach him. So I just will add here that Trump will not be impeached. And again, this whole business that's going on with Ukraine, I feel that there has been misinformation fed, again from a Russian source, that is perhaps misguiding the Democrats. I don't feel the Democrats are trying to use false information deliberately, but I think there's been wrong information being fed to people here. So mark my words, Trump will not be impeached. So with Christmas coming up and all that, you might actually want to buy 2 of my books. Have you thought about my other one? What to do when you are dead. It's all about mediumship, basically. It's what is the afterlife like, and I did a lot of research for that book, and I also talk a lot in there from my own experience working as a medium, because I mean, I know a lot of you follow my channel because you're very interested in my predictions, but actually I'm a medium first and foremost. That's what my work is, to prove life after death, these predictions are often by popular demand. But if you like anything to do with the afterlife and learning about what happens, I think you would enjoy What to Do When You're Dead. It makes a good gift. Right, now that my barefaced advert's out the way, let's do another question. This one's from Ming. Sorry, it's a Chinese name, I don't know if I've pronounced it right. And he says, I'm from China and live in Europe now. Could you give me more predictions and details about the revolution going on in Hong Kong, please? What is the future of China? What can we prepare for that? It's not only related to China, it's related with the world. Thank you. Okay, well, I have covered that quite a lot in my last video, but again, I will briefly say a little bit more about that, because we're seeing this going on in China, and I say the people of Hong Kong are not going to relent. I made my first predictions before, you will remember, I think it was 2015 or something. I might have been even earlier than that I was talking about this revolution in China. I felt this was going to be a major turning point for the world, and it's going to happen. And I feel, like I've said before, there's going to be more problems occurring, particularly around the areas of the northwest of China. You know, this northwest of China, as we head towards the Tibet border, those areas are going to have issues and problems of people revolting. So yeah, there's going to be more ahead, and I feel that ultimately China goes onto a good path. And the thing is, although we seem to be seeing almost the possibilities of a dreadful, bloody revolution could happen there, I feel the Chinese leaders will relent and allow the democratic forces to start taking more and more control. I know they've got a strangle grip at the moment on China, but as the economy starts to falter because of the trade war, I feel that China will have to allow democracy, have to give in, without, hopefully, too much bloodshed. So my next question is from Richard Jamros. And he's asked, could you do a reading for Germany and France, as some indications are that in the last quarter they will go into recession and cause financial collapse? Now, I have spoken about European economics before, and I've said some time ago that I feel that Europe will go into recession after Brexit. In fact, if you remember my predictions, what I have said is that Europe will break up, and that we will see kind of new sort of mini Europes forming. There will be sort of like a German federation based around German economics. So we'd have Germany at the centre with some of the Eastern European countries, Austria, and and some of the other countries around that area on the east forming a coalition. France will split from Germany when it comes to the new Europe, as it were, and Italy in particular, I feel, will have serious problems. And they are now talking about, since I made these predictions, they are talking about the potential of an Italian banking collapse, and I feel that is on the cards. So those European countries, France, Italy and Spain, will also form a new trading federation. So there's multiple Europes I see for the future, and yes, so you've asked about that, and I feel that the German economics, the Deutsche Bank, I feel has problems ahead too. I feel that it's unstable. I feel that there's so much regulation being put into the banks that they don't have the flexibility to get the countries out of trouble quickly if the need arises. So yes, I do feel that there are problems ahead, both particularly for Germany, and I feel in France there's going to be a lot of social upheaval. I know we've had the Yellow Vest protests, and they've kind of died down. That will start to come to the surface again next year, 2020. And I feel that French politics, over a longer period of time, is going to become much more right-wing. It's going to be much more Vive la France, and there's going to be internal conflicts with its high number of immigrant population that is now in France. So problems ahead, I'm afraid. But Europe as a whole will benefit from breaking up, I feel. I'll just finish now on a few short questions, because people have asked me about financial investments. I mean, a few people have asked this. A few people from Japan and around the world have asked questions about that, and I've had a few emails from you on this. Okay, this is, if you want to make money, don't bet on my predictions. I know some of you do, but I feel that the money is going to be made in oil. I do feel there's going to be problems. This is if you're doing stocks. I do feel there's going to be problems in oil. There's going to be all sorts of crises ahead with the new oil war. Now, I've spoken about that before. I feel there's going to be this conflict between Saudi and Iran, and we're going to see more and more disruption to oil, possibly conflict again in the Middle East. I mean, last night I dreamed I was in Israel. Why am I dreaming I'm in Israel? Is something going to happen also with Israel? I haven't seen the full thing yet on that, but I get a feeling Israel's got problems as well ahead in 2020. So that whole Middle East area is going to be a conflict zone, which is going to disrupt oil. And those that follow the stocks would find that so often when wars happen and conflicts like that happen, oil stocks go up. Also, particularly Saudi Arabia. I know Saudi Arabia's just started to sell off some of its national oil reserves, its industry, as it were, its refineries and so forth. So any investments, any opportunities that come up to buy Saudi oil stocks, I would say would be fantastic. Anybody does that. Bitcoin, I would avoid. I've always said this. I feel that Bitcoin is like the South Sea bubble. It gets bigger, 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 and eventually pops. So I wouldn't put my money into that, because my feeling is that regulation is going to be brought in to stop things like that. I also feel it's not a good investment to put things into these artificial currencies that Facebook, for example, were talking about. Now, I talked about that some time ago, and now we've seen Facebook kind of drop that whole idea of Libra. But anything like that, these new attempts at new currencies, which Bitcoin is as well, I would personally keep out of. But then, you know, on your heads be it when you're investing. I take no responsibility. I am not a financial advisor. I am just a psychic with a few ideas here. I just want to also, just on the financial thing, because I had people from Australia asking about the financial problems, because I get the sense that Australia is going to have a lot of financial problems this year too, in 2020, and a little bit further ahead. It's going to start to see its trade with China diminish to the point that it's got to rethink the way it does things. Later on, Australia will flourish, because it will start to sell into new markets, particularly into India and into the new China when it comes. But for the short term, I feel Australians have got to rethink the way they do things. A lot of problems there with having to go through a period of readjustment of their investments because of the change in the way things are done with minerals. And also I feel investments in South Africa, I want to put question marks over too, because people have asked about South Africa. Again, I feel there's going to be this a bit like what happened in Rhodesia, where the land grabs start to happen again, and I feel we're going to see more and more of that happening. So people are going to be defending their land and trying to take land. So there's more and more growing tension in South Africa. I think eventually South Africa will settle down, but it's going to take many years for that to happen. It's going to take many years. I feel great tension in South Africa. I don't feel a complete revolution like happened in Rhodesia, but I do feel that there is the growing tensions that will be very difficult for the next 10 to 15 years. Okay, and also one other thing, Mexico too. I just want to say about Mexico, because I feel American troops are going to be sent into Mexico. Now, not war with Mexico, being invited in to help deal with these cartels. And I feel it's not quite, I think we're probably looking a little bit further ahead than early 2020. I think we're looking late, possibly 2020, maybe 2021, but we get a major crackdown on that, and lots of brownie points for Donald Trump, because he'll say that he'll claim he'll claim the victory over that it was his doing. But I think it will be on the behest of the Mexican government. Well, I hope you liked that, but keep your comments coming, because if you do put the comments below, I will answer them. And you don't just have to ask about predictions, you can ask about whatever topic you like, and I will pick up on them either in full videos or in question and answers type sessions like this. And don't forget, if you want to follow this channel, click the little bell below and you'll get updates every time we send up a new video. So thanks for joining us. And oh, by the way, if you've enjoyed some of my work, why not go and have a look at my movie on Amazon Prime called Mystic Journey to India. I'm going to put a clip up at the end here so you can have a little clip from the show. I think you find it inspiring because I talk in there about remedies, how we can change the world by doing charitable things. So if you're worrying about predictions and what's going to happen to the world, have a look at that and see if there's any way that you could perhaps do something good in the world that can help change the energy a little bit, okay? I am Craig Hamilton Parker, a psychic medium. I have come to India to visit its temples and to do its rituals and to change my fate. I've stumbled upon a 5,000-year oracle that can apparently predict your future with 100% accuracy from just your thumbprint. It even tells me the day I will die. Is this insane, or will I uncover life-changing secrets about destiny? Everything the oracle has told me about my life so far is astonishing. What it has to say is so mind-boggling that I feel compelled to make this crazy journey in order to undertake the magical remedies it prescribes. On this journey, I meet a holy man who sleeps in a raging fire and is claimed will live for hundreds of years. This Siddhi yogi never eats, lives in a cave, and few people ever get